Hi guys, welcome to the Grapplers Academy. Following on from our last episode, we're going to be going into a bit more of a discussion about triangles, triangle choke, look at the mechanics, common issues, exchange some war stories about them, sort of just going into a little bit more of a detailed conversation about them, considering that we can't actually train together and demonstrate them together at the moment. We're going to try be as descriptive as we can and sort of get the conversation going about them. But one of the main subjects that me and Bonn kind of came across when we were talking about this was the whole short legs. I've got short legs, I can't do them. Triangles never work. Yeah, quite. I was one of those until I had the little light bulb moment. But what about yourself, Bonn, with these?
Yeah, it's kind of that classic excuse, isn't it, for players with the triangle? They're always saying when it's like a white belt, kind of just getting into it, or maybe sometimes even blue belts and higher, just like it's not working for me. Your shoulders are too big. I can't get the triangle off. Like you're too big. It doesn't work. I'll tell you now, I've been triangled off the smallest female jiu-jitsu player in the gym.
Yeah.
Like short legs, much shorter legs than the width of my shoulders, and like the reason why it's not working for you is not because the width of my shoulders or how short your legs are. It's because your technique's wrong.
Yeah,
It's an angle thing, isn't it? So we're trying to create an angle on a triangle most of the time, or like you might be able to get away with it if you've got really long legs and kind of the mechanics of that just go in your favour by staying square on and being able to wrap a triangle up that way. But most people, myself included, especially when you're going against somebody bigger, you've got to make the angle and turn off on the side, because like we were just talking about this 2 seconds ago, but the mechanics of what's going on and why a triangle choke's working is we're basically looking to cut off the blood supply on either side of the neck. So you're looking to use your legs to close this gap here, pretty much, isn't it? So
yeah.
Every mechanic that you should be doing should be going into trying to close that space around your neck. And I think that's probably the biggest mistake that most people make when they're trying to put a triangle on.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And another common mistake that certainly helped my game anyway was I was one of those that I'd get the posture down and my hips would be underneath their chest. And I was trying to sort of triangle around their back and shoulders. Now, if I was going against like a lightweight who's got zero back and zero shoulders, I'd possibly land it. But like I say, in our weight division, there's people with necks like tree trunks and backs like trucks, and you've got to really get your angle and your sort of positioning right before you go in for it. And I found more so, rather than having my opponent's chin above my belly button, I was essentially I needed to adjust myself to get the chin right above my hips, essentially where my boxer short line was, and that would massively increase my leg length. Really, not like my legs were growing, but it would give me the sort of impression that I had longer legs and it was easier to tie up the triangle around the shoulders and neck. And then from there, turning that corner was miles easier, and finish them it's that sort of penny drop moment you get where it's sort of like, oh, that's what I was doing wrong.
It's like 4 years of jiu-jitsu later and I'm only just realising this.
It took me 6 years to figure that one out.
Well, like basically what you're saying though is you're going from that wider part of the body and you're basically just manipulating your opponent's position to get them down to the shorter bit of the body.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Essentially, like you're changing your body position on it, so you're going from a mechanical disadvantage for you to a mechanical advantage for you. And then, like you said, it's just turning the corner and getting the angle on it is way easier.
That was one of those. That was a massive TP fan. Like I sort of was like, legs are too short for triangles. I'm not doing it. Yeah. Get to the little pit stop position. I'm like, ooh, TP. Reach behind my legs and just squeeze.
I think, to be honest as well, like you were saying, you just crush somebody in the lightweight category's neck or back. It's probably because your legs are massive, mate. It's just like a thigh crush rather than anything. You don't want to be there.
Yeah, and it wasn't the triangle locked up. It was actually just me doing was it Ibana on the top from GoldenEye?
I'm thinking, like, I was just actually watching the Celebrity SAS thing that was on the other day.
Oh yeah.
John Fashanu had this like ridiculous rear naked choke sunk in on somebody. They were basically trying to play rugby, but he was doing that Nicky Rod thing about basically across the jaw and just crushing his face. There was no technique there whatsoever. I'd love to know where he's picked that up.
So if the timer's still on, I'm still going.
Yeah. John Donaghy said something funny about Nicky Rod in this ADCC just gone, and he's like, he can choke you anywhere below your eyes. So basically, if he's getting a lock up anywhere below your eyes, you're tapping.
To be fair though, I think if it's in the size of his arms, like I think if that was across my nose and mouth, I'd probably come back with a concave in the shape of the head.
Yeah, it's an absolute unit. Bodybuilding for jiu-jitsu paying off there big time.
Well, I see that's another discussion we were just having before this one, the weight training for jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
we'll come back to that another time. But yeah, I mean, like just going back to like the key things on the triangle. What other points would you say that most people commonly make as a mistake, or like come to you with questions for that they're struggling with the triangle?
One thing as well that I always get is whenever I create space, they take it back. And it's like this is a very, very common thing, and I see it across all belt levels really. Whether I'm coaching or whether I'm just rolling with somebody, is when they've got the head and arm isolated and they're trying to create the angle or extend themselves away, they'll take hold of the shin, which controls my posture, but then they've got to put the foot on the mat and try to create the angle or the space, as opposed to putting it on their opponent's hip. Where if you put on the mat and you create space, they're just going to shuffle forward, take the space back. Whereas if you put it on their hip, as soon as you've got that frame in place and you're actually activated with the leg muscles, as soon as they sort of come forward, your frame's going to send you away as well. So you're going to keep that space you just created. So for me, it was definitely the framing issues are another common issue that I see amongst triangles.
I think that's quite a big one, isn't it? Like, posture is massive. Of course, you've got to keep the posture broke down, but I like to think about it kind of like putting wedges or blockers, or sometimes even describe it to people like a race on who can put padlocks on first. So, like, you're the person going through a submission that's trying to put padlocks on, so that for your opponent to escape out of the padlocks, they've got to undo them quicker than you can put them on. And that one that's going on the hips is a great one, because like it just is another padlock that they've got to clear before they can start thinking about clearing out and getting their posture out on the upper body. And it gives you a really good pivot point as well, doesn't it? Like the floor's great and you can get a good angle off the floor if they're not really cleaned up on the defense, but it gives you a lot more leverage to turn and get that angle if you put it on the hips.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you can sort of like, if you've got powerful enough legs as well, you can drive your heel in as a wedge into the hip. And as well as sending yourself away, you're going to almost send them away as well. If you're pushing hard enough in the hips and they're not fighting it to the same degree. But are there any sort of issues that you tend to sort of commonly see across triangles with these as well?
I think the main ones really are kind of like trying to force the issue and get it wrapped up too soon. People aren't thinking about the checklist of things that need to happen before they can get to the end of the triangle. I think, like, perhaps kind of thinking out loud now as well is we say it's one of the first submissions you generally sort of learn, isn't it? A triangle. It's like quite an early on move in the game, and maybe a mistake people are making is like, they're not experienced after the first 6 months of training. Is one of the first moves that they learn, and then kind of just like go with those basic learning points that they've remembered when they've not got the full details on it. And that's like absolutely not saying that the coaches have given them bad training details, but you know yourself looking at anybody starting from, like, especially when I started, you're just not retaining those important bits of information. So that's why it's always important to like touch back and freshen up on techniques that you think you already know, because there's going to be something that you can improve on. But it's like any other submission, these checklists that you've got to hit, and if you're not hitting each one of them cleanly or keeping the control in each position, then you're not going to get the sub. So it's just a case of making sure that you're doing everything right and not rushing to the submission. I kind of see a lot of people rush into it.
Yeah, I think that's common amongst like a lot of submissions though, isn't it? Like everyone's in a rush to get there. Like for me, I quite enjoy taking away all the gaps before I go for a submission. Like for me, my favourite one for that is the head and arm triangle. But like I say, onto triangle choke today is when I do play it is I just take my time. Like I imagine that I've got minute, 2 minutes to get there, and I'm gonna make sure the posture's right first. I'm gonna control my shin and their posture, and then I'm just gonna take my time to get there to ensure that there's no gaps. And so it's like anything in life, really. The longer you take to do something, if it's done properly, is going to be much better than a rush job.
So you're saying don't get on gear and just start injecting synthol if you want to get massive. Like you should actually just lift some weights and eat some food.
I don't know, synthol, mate. If you look at the sort of synthol man, the infamous one, his traps and biceps, like I don't know.
I mean, the other point as well about getting on synthol is you're going to be able to put a triangle on that guy.
He's got no neck to choke.
I saw a disgusting video the other day where this guy was back squatting and he was injected full of synthol. They had those synthol traps, and the bar was resting inside the synthol bubble that he'd created on his shoulders. So, you know, like people use the squat pad in the gym. Built in, bro. He's got a built-in squat pad.
Yeah, synthol it up. Oh, wow. Speaking of the angle there as well, like, what's your favourite thing to do? Do you know the arm that you got trapped inside the trapped inside the triangle? Are you sort of a passer over, or do you sort of tend to see what happens with that arm?
So yeah, kind of like for me, I think the most effective way of getting it across is using like a kind of a swan neck grip across the forearm and dragging it across with the tricep. Just seems to take away a lot more of that space. Like I just feel like it's difficult to take away the space if you're trying to manipulate from different points, and then like the final point of getting it and stretching them out, or especially if you're pulling them into it in the beginning, wrist control is good to start stretching them out and pulling their arm up alongside your shoulder. But for me, if I'm perfectly honest, like a triangle isn't one that I'm going to go out of my way to look for if I'm playing off my back. Same with an armbar also, to be honest. Me personally, I'm probably trying to look for a change in position or a different sort of sub from there. So most often, if I'm honest, I'm only going to go for a triangle if somebody's probably made a mistake that they shouldn't have made and they've kind of put their arm there. But yeah, definitely to tighten it up once it's in position, that hook on the forearm, swan neck, and dragging the arm across seems to be my most effective way of tightening that triangle.
Oh, nice.
How about yourself?
I've played with both sides really, where I keep it on the trapped arm side, and being on the receiving end of that, even from somebody with shorter legs for the weight division, it goes on quite a lot tighter. And I found when I'm in that position, actually taking hold of the wrist and trying to pull it sort of upwards rather than trying to fight across, takes away that space at the neck. And as you're squeezing with the legs as well, it can almost put the choke on that a little bit faster. It's something that we'd probably have to try and visually show in a demo at some point. But yeah, for me, the trapped arm, obviously the traditional way of passing it over the body works really well, but sometimes that's not always like the easiest thing to do when you've got someone who's very aware of the triangle and essentially how to defend it.
So for you then, let's say you've got them in a triangle, but like a lot of people like to wrap the arms, don't they, around the back, or try and hide this arm underneath to prevent the arm from coming across. And you can kind of almost start to use your lats to climb up out of the triangle there, can't you? What are you doing in that situation?
In that situation, I tend to try and go heavy on the hips, and I get like a bit of a heel hook bite on the elbow. So I'm lifting the hips in the air, getting underneath the elbow with a heel hook bite, and I'm going to sort of lower my hips down, because that sort of pressure there is going to add a bit of an extra torque to the shoulder, and they'll either give up the grip or you can get a shoulder lock on them. And then when they give up the grip, you separate the arm from their other arm and you can start to work on progressing it. Like I said, triangles are something that I've not really played too much in my early days of playing, but then over the past few years I've started to play them a little bit more, and when I get them I enjoy them, but for me they are a bit more of a pain to sort of get set up and finish, really.
Yeah, so for us, for me training down at 12 gauge, we've got a couple of guys who are kind of they've got a good triangle, so it's something to stay away from.
Yeah.
But that being said, same with all subs really. If you've got a really high level way of applying it, and you've got multiple different positions and angles of getting in on it almost makes it puts that fear in your opponent's head of like knowing that no matter where you are or what position you're in, that triangle's there. And Luke Begley down at 12 gauge or Ian Buckley like have had really good success with this in the past. Like Ian basically won his amateur MMA belts with triangles and arm bars.
Oh, wow.
And those positions just play beautifully off each other. Like there's a really good match where he's got that triangle armbar transition position switched up off his back and just basically keeps playing that until he gets the success with it. So great one for MMA because it takes away a lot of that punching ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a killer sub. Like, everyone's going to gravitate towards their own thing. But I think that one being such an early one that you kind of learn in your game, like if you can get the key points of it right early and try and carry that through your career, it's a good one, and it's fairly high percentage as well, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Like you said, it's one that I think everybody should have in their arsenal or try to add into it. And like I said, there's so many things you can transition to from it if it doesn't quite work right. And for me, I do enjoy watching a good triangle go on. As a fan, as well as a practitioner, it's a great thing to watch, and it's like I said, it's a great tool to have in your arsenal for MMA or for grappling in general.
Yeah, and I know Luke won't mind me saying this because we've had this joking discussion a couple of times, but there's nothing more beautiful or appealing to get as a Facebook profile picture as hitting a flying triangle. So, like, if you can go into a tournament trying to get that Instagram profile picture, if you've thrown that flying triangle up, it's a pretty glamorous one, isn't it? You must have seen Genki Sudo's setups for flying triangles, or people are, if they're sat in closed guard and they're kind of just playing around there, like it's super slick. Like you kind of tip their legs back, wait for them to sit back up forward, and then you're diving in on a flying triangle. Like that's game over, isn't it? If you can get that in a competition, you should just basically get 20 points. You've won the match whether you finish it or not.
To be fair, I think if that happened to be a competition, I'd just leave the venue for the day. I'd go in the shower and just fly.
Oh man, it's just so easily available now. Somebody's not paying attention. Somebody's like butt scooting towards you for that leg entanglement, and then you just tip them back up and like, right, I'm going to come back and get you. And then that flying triangle comes in. You're
like, oh yeah, home time. I'm done. Tap.
I think if that happens to you, you're going to have to stick that as your Instagram or Facebook profile picture, just so that it reminds you every day.
Do you know what? I'd probably do it for 24 hours, and then the hurt and the pain would be too much.
Yeah. It's like I keep all my losing medals. I don't like my winning medals. I'm not really too interested in, but my losing medals I keep in my bag, so that they're a reminder every time I go to training. Like this is what I don't want to do. all those like kind of silver and bronze medals just sit in my bag, and it's like a nice training reminder that every time I go onto the mats that I don't want to be in that position again.
I was saying, you're going to make sort of like all your training partners sort of pay for the medals that you've got in your bag there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But like when we get back to normal, I think what we'll do on this is like get some good breakdown of what's good in a triangle and what doesn't work so well in a triangle. I think it'd be good to like get that on camera and like basically show people what's working and what's not working. What do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely, as soon as we can, we'll get in there and get some training footage together where we can break these techniques down, and even for future ones that we're going to start to sort of isolate, start breaking down. I think it's a great way we can start to build up this library of techniques.
Yeah, I think as well for anybody watching this, get in the comments and leave us some info on what other techniques you want us to break down. There's so much of a vast library of techniques that we can do in jiu-jitsu. So just get in there, like if you're having a problem with any techniques in particular, like you can't figure out a reason why it's not working for you, and you think it's kind of down to your body mechanics, chances are that it's not, and there's probably something that you're not quite doing right. So hit us up in the comments and give us some suggestions to come for next time.
No, definitely. And off the back of that, thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.